Hi, I'm Dan Radcliffe, and I am back again for Wired Autocomplete Part 2. It's weird watching yourself as a kid.
That was what you said the last time, too.
Oh, was it? Great. Okay, so I'm consistent. Oh, so this is a f***ing test. This is what Daniel Radcliffe. Okay. What is Daniel Radcliffe's favourite Harry Potter? I actually love the fifth one, which is not one that most people cite as one of their favourites, but I got to work with Gary Oldman a bunch in it, and I was sort of a little bit older at that point, so I was kind of able to appreciate that more. But to watch, probably the last one. What is Daniel Radcliffe age? I recently turned 32. When I tell people that I'm 30, people they go sort of pale and look like the Inception with the, on the beach at the end when they've aged 1,000 years. It's like that. What plays has Daniel Radcliffe been in? I did a play called Equus, which people probably know as being the play about a psychologically disturbed kid who is obsessed with horses and gets naked. That's the detail you probably remember. I did that when I was 17, which seems crazy to say out loud now, but I did. I did a play by Martin McDonagh called The Cripple of Inishmaan. That was a lot of fun. I did a musical called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. I'm just listing my CV for you now, but that's fine. I want to go back to Broadway at some point, and the West End. Oh, and I did Endgame. I did Endgame in London. It was right before the pandemic as well. That's the most recent. That's embarrassing that I forgot that one. I love film as well, but like stage, you get a pure adrenaline rush every night, which is really, really exciting and addictive. What is Daniel Radcliffe's accent? I mean, English, just like kind of boring, middle of the road English. I mean, it's London, I guess. I've weirdly been told that my American accent, which is just what comes out when I do an American accent, I've been told I sound like I'm from Ohio, quite consistently. I don't even really know what that means, but I do know that Chris Columbus, who directed the first two Potters, I think he's also from Ohio. So maybe in some way I am just kind of mirroring the American accent I heard the most growing up, but my own accent is just boring, boring English. Who Daniel Radcliffe? Who does Daniel Radcliffe support? I'm assuming this means, in terms of sports and not like emotionally. I have become like an avid fan of many American sports. My loyalties in terms of rooting interests are generally split between New York teams and Detroit teams because my girlfriend is from just outside Detroit. Yeah, I'm like a Red Wings hockey fan and Detroit Lions, but also, the Giants and Rangers. And obviously England in anything that we're even remotely competitive in. The football team that I grew up supporting in the UK is Fulham Football Club. But yeah, I'm a much less big soccer fan than you would expect from an English person. Who voices Daniel Radcliffe in BoJack Horseman? Me. I did it. Yeah, it would have been actually an amazing, considering what the joke that episode ends with, if they had Elijah Wood voice me in that, but they did not. Who does Daniel Radcliffe look like? Oh, a perfect segue. The idea of me and Elijah Wood is the same. We don't actually look that alike, but if you imagine all our component parts, we're just sort of short, pale, blue-eyed, big-eyed, brown-haired people. Who does Elijah Wood look like? See above, I suppose. I would love to be in a movie with Elijah Wood. At this point, it feels like it would have to be something that is consciously using the way the world sees us as linked and similar looking. I'm very open to pitches. There's no way you can do that because I'm not on social media, but if it's good, it'll get to me. Is Daniel Radcliffe? Okay. Is Daniel Radcliffe in Cursed Child? No, I am not. That is the Harry Potter play. I'm not in it. I haven't actually seen it as well, not because of the content of the play, but just because I imagine the crowd would lean towards big Harry Potter fans in a really significant way. So I feel like being in there just might be, like people might be watching me watch it, and that feels weird. I've heard it is absolutely fantastic though, and everybody who goes has a wonderful time. Is Daniel Radcliffe knighted? No, very much not. That is very, very far from a thing that I am or will ever be, I would imagine. Is Daniel Radcliffe? That's great. That is truly unexpected. Is Daniel Radcliffe the Geico Gecko? No. I mean, I think that advertising campaign pre-existed at a time where I would be doing voiceover work, just because I think I was probably sounded like a teenager at the time. There's a thing in the ad that always really annoys me when he's like, people don't know if I'm English or Australian. It's like, no, you're obviously English. You sound very English. You would know that. No, I'm not the gecko, and I obviously have other thoughts about it, which I'm just discovering now as well. Is Daniel Radcliffe a time traveler? Can't talk about this here. No, I think this refers to an amazing quality that apparently my face has. It crops up in old photos a lot. A lot of the photos also have sort of Harry Potter-ish glasses on, but there are truly some of them that are just eerie. They found one of like an old lady in like a bonnet, I think, and glasses. It is insane how much I look like this old woman. But if I was, I wouldn't be able to reveal that information because I would screw up, like, the future. Is Daniel Radcliffe still friends with Tom Felton? Yes, absolutely. We're all kind of all over the place. We don't see each other much. But yeah, I'm still, like, in contact with all of them, and it's like we were all, you know, obviously texted Rupert last year when he had his baby, which is truly insane and amazing. I always say we'll always be bonded by this thing, even if we don't, like, kind of live in each other's pockets anymore. Thank you, Olivia. All right, why Daniel Radcliffe? It's a great question in and of itself. Why did Daniel Radcliffe become an actor? I had like expressed an interest in acting when I was like 5 or 6, and I saw a comedy play that my mum took me to, and I turned around to her and was like, I want to be an actor. And she, having been an actor and not had the greatest experience of it, was like, no, you don't want to do that. And I didn't really think about it again for a long time, and then they were auditioning people to play David Copperfield for the BBC. More as like a self-esteem thing. They were like, maybe he can have an audition, and that, just the experience of auditioning will have been a thing that none of the other kids in the class will have. And then on that project, I worked with Maggie Smith. She played my aunt in that, and then it was her who I think recommended me to the director for Potter. So yes, thank you, Maggie. Why is Daniel Radcliffe walking dogs? I assume this refers to a photo of me on the set of Trainwreck. It was a set, and I'm playing a character. I have not just become a dog walker in real life. I was doing a play in New York. It was the Cripple of Inishmaan, I think. Judd Apatow came and saw it and came back to my dressing room after and was like, would you be up for doing like a really silly small cameo in this movie? I thought he was just being kind of nice. And then at some point he phoned me and talked me through like what I would be doing, and yeah, it was great. It was such a fun day. And that photo, my God, that photo went everywhere. Why did Daniel Radcliffe quit Harry Potter? Oh, punches for you. I didn't quit, they finished. No, I obviously did not quit, and I would not have, because it was awesome. I am now done, and now being done, I do not feel an urge to rush back to it, just because it was, you know, like it's a gigantic, life-changing thing, and I feel like having come out of it, I've managed to like get my life in a level that I kind of, you know, can manage and feels dealable with. But I also never say never, because that's a dumb thing to say. Why is Daniel Radcliffe in Halifax? Last year, my girlfriend was shooting a TV show in Nova Scotia, and so I was hanging out in Halifax for like a good long while, like a couple of months. And I think people were really confused. But it also it happens all the time because Erin's from Flint in Michigan, and whenever we go back there, people are just like, I created a small scene at a Bob Evans in Michigan. But that Bob Evans was so sweet. Like the local press heard that I had been to this Bob Evans, and so they phoned them up and asked what I had and what I ate, and the Bob Evans no commented. They said like they wouldn't tell them as like a matter of my privacy. I was like, you didn't need to. You could have told them I had an omelette. I wouldn't have minded, but it's really nice of you. Why isn't Daniel Radcliffe verified on Instagram? Because I am not on Instagram, and the person who, if they're saying it's me, they are not telling the truth. I commend all of you out there who are mentally strong enough to be on social media all the time. I am not one of those people. I would go fully insane. So yeah, I'm staying off for now. Thank you. Does Daniel Radcliffe actually wear glasses? No. As you can see, from my face. I have not got contact lenses in either. I was prescribed glasses when I was really young, and I kept losing them. And at a certain point, my parents were like, "You can see, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, fine." And they were like, "Okay, I think we're good then." The glasses, like whenever I play another character that has glasses, it's the most involved I get in props ever, because I'm just like, we have to be very specific about which glasses we're choosing here, and they cannot be reminiscent of, they cannot be perfectly circular, basically. Does Daniel Radcliffe have tattoos? Not yet. Again, I really do want some, but again, I've been talking about this for so long. There will always be like a makeup artist who I know who will be like, "Don't do it, we have to cover them and we secretly hate you for it." But I think I'm gonna bite the bullet at some point, because I really like them. Talk to me in 10 years when I am covered, just head to toe. Does Daniel Radcliffe like being famous? Some of these questions are simple, and some of them are complicated. I like my job. A side effect of my job is that I'm famous. But generally speaking, like when you hear people say that they want to be famous, I'm like, anonymity is a really cool thing. Like it allows you to do a lot and make mistakes and like them not feel like all very, very high stakes all the time. And so there's definitely like some parts of fame that are just weird and that I've had to like grow into realizing what they are, because they were all just such a part of my life. If fame is the part of my job that I have to like deal with to do my job, I would make that deal like 10 times out of 10. Like it's not even a question. Does Daniel Radcliffe play Minecraft? Minecraft and Olivia Rodrigo have been two of the real like, oh, I'm old moments of recently. Minecraft, obviously a few years ago, I was playing with my godson, or attempting to play, and he was like explaining it to me, and I was saying all the old person things of just like, I don't get it. How is it a game? When does it finish? It seems very cool, just can't do it. And then yeah, Olivia Rodrigo was the same thing, where she was like at the White House, and I was like, oh, you're famous enough to be at the White House, and this is the first time I'm hearing about you. So, but I completely accept that is on me, not anyone else. But yeah, there have been real watershed moments recently. Does Daniel Radcliffe like anime? You know, I think I would like anime a lot. Even now I'm going like, am I even versed enough to know what anime specifically refers to? Like it's certain series, right? But like, is Avatar: The Last Airbender anime? That I'm into, that was great. I know it's a lot more in depth than that, but yeah, I don't think I am, but I probably would be if I like really got into it. What Daniel Radcliffe? What is Daniel Radcliffe's favorite movie? There's a movie called A Matter of Life and Death. It was made by, I think, Powell and Pressburger in like 1952. And it's this magical realist story about like a fighter pilot getting shot down over the channel, but then the angels miss him in the chaos of war. So he has to like go to heaven and make a case that he should be allowed to keep living. It's so imaginative and fun, and yeah, you know, in terms of like films I have rewatched the most, it's probably the Ben Foster-led teen movie Get Over It. It was one of the first films that my girlfriend and I bonded over. Yeah, it's like an incredible cast. Like Ben Foster, Kirsten Dunst, I think Mila Kunis, Colin Hanks, like so many people are in that. Martin Short is unbelievable in it. Great movie, so two very different films for you to check out there. What did Daniel Radcliffe get in his GCSEs? 1 A star, 2 A's, and the rest B's. It is funny how much at the time you're like, man, these GCSE results, they are going to matter forever. If you're currently revising for them or studying for them, I am so sorry. It sucks, and it will be over soon. What does Daniel Radcliffe smell like? I don't know, because I smell myself all the time. I'd imagine coffee, and probably like in the summer, just sweat. It's unpleasant, probably. What did Daniel Radcliffe pull out of his head in Jungle? So yeah, there's a scene in a film I did called Jungle where my character who's a real person who got lost in the jungle. He realizes that there is something living under his skin, and he has to get rid of that. It's a very, very gross, quite hard to watch scene in the movie. One of my favorite prosthetics that I've ever worn. You could do the whole thing practically of like open it and pull it out. Sorry, this is really gross. I feel like it's worth mentioning that in the film, we gave you one of them. In real life, Yossi had like 10 to 20 of them all over his body that he had to get out one by one. There's just some things that happened to Yossi that were so extreme that yeah, we went with like a slightly easier version. Daniel Radcliffe, this is just my name. Can I marry Daniel Radcliffe? You know, no, probably not, but that doesn't mean you won't meet someone great. I've always been very, awkward around this question, but if you met me, you'd be like, no, I don't want to marry that guy. It's fine. What is Daniel Radcliffe up to these days. The third season of this very, very funny, incredibly lovely show that I do called Miracle Workers. This season is the most insane we've ever done so far. At one point they called me into the writer's room on Zoom and were like, we have something to pitch you, and they're like, they don't do that normally, like I trust them, they don't have to run stuff by me. But they were like, you appear in this crazy outfit and you do a disco version of She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes whilst like twerking and voguing. I'm not somebody who is ever gonna tamp down somebody else's creative spirit, so I was like, yeah, okay, and I'm game for something slightly crazy. It's one of the most insane things I've ever shot. Also one of the most fun days I've ever had on a film set. I also just finished filming a movie called The Lost City of D with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock in Dominican Republic, and it's awesome. It really is. Like I hope that cinemas are kind of up and going again by then and people feel comfortable doing that, so that, you know, it's a real like grab your friends and some popcorn and cheer at the screen. Like it's a really good fun movie. How many films has Daniel Radcliffe been in? That's a great question. I don't know. The last time I counted, it was probably like, I think it was mid-20s. I look at like Michael Caine's IMDb, and he's been in like more than 100 movies, I think. Whenever you want motivating, just look at Michael Caine's IMDb and go, yeah, you can keep working if you want to. How many times did Daniel Radcliffe break his wand? This is a rumor I would like to disperse. There is a thing that I sometimes see on Twitter that's like when I am going on it to not have one but look at other people's. Amazing fact or weird trivia thing will pop up and it'll be like, Daniel Radcliffe broke 100 wands or like 60 wands on set. It's not that many, guys. I used to like use them and like drum on my leg with it the whole time and like be doing that all the time, and eventually, you know, you sort of wear them down and they will break. But yeah, it wasn't as many as that. I feel like everyone got through a few, and I was probably 12. Maximum, absolute maximum of 20. And finally, Daniel Radcliffe, periodic table. I learned the Tom Lehrer song, The Elements, when I was like 16 or 17. I don't know why, I was that kind of teenager. I love anything that's like wordy and fast and a bit of a challenge. And I got to meet Tom Lehrer one day. The guy who wrote that song and many other songs. If you take anything away from this, go and just like download An Evening Wasted with Tom Lehrer. There's a lot of other stuff in there that is truly holds up brilliantly today. Cool. The one that like riled me slightly, I was like, why did he quit Harry Potter? I'm like, is that a thing people are thinking that happened? But no, that's what's wonderful about this segment. You give me a chance to correct that. So thank you so much for having me back, Wired.